Hello, and welcome to Finsweet Live. Today is Build Day, and we are here with Alex Iglesias, Finsweet CTO. Today we're talking about how to deploy JavaScript code for Webflow with NPM packages. A few weeks ago, we talked about how to deploy JavaScript code in general. We went over some more basic options, and we stopped at the NPM package level. So now we are picking up that topic again. We're going to talk about NPM packages, what they are, how you can use them in your development workflow. And this is actually what Finsweet does for our workflow. So Alex is going to walk us through that. And I really encourage everybody to ask questions during this stream. There's going to be a lot of information, a lot of new information. And we want to make sure you understand this, that you could start using this workflow immediately. So Alex, welcome to Finsweet Live. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great. Excited to be here. Always am.
Good. You know, this show, I think, is helping a lot of people really understand that next step in their technical journey. A lot of people want this. So that's why we're back every week. We really appreciate everybody coming out to this show, whether it's live or after in the recording. So let's get started. Let's jump right into this and start talking about NPM packages. So I'll ask the question, what is an NPM package?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think it's good to start talking about NPM packages because I don't want everyone to think that NPM packages are just for hosting some JavaScript code for Webflow. NPM packages have a complete purpose, and it's super interesting if you're a developer who is using JavaScript in your day-to-day. NPM packages, NPM is just a package manager. So NPM would be like the platform where all the packages can be hosted and can be you can search for the packages, you can consume those packages from there. It's just the platform. And I think that we should start by defining actually what's a package, right? So imagine that you usually code something. I don't know, when you're building a website, there's specific functionality that you're doing again and again and again. It could be something very simple, like, for example, getting today's date. Like, what date is today? Is it, are we on, or maybe what month it's today? Are we in September? Are we in August? Whatever. It could be something simple as this, or it could be something that's super complex. Like, for example, you created an entire framework for building, some functionality in Webflow. For example, like from Logic, the upcoming library that someday will be will see the light. That could be also an NPM package. It's just a bunch of code that provides some functionality and that you want to use that functionality across different projects. That's the main idea. Because in that case, what happens is that you take this code, you bundle it together into a package, and you put these into NPM. And by the way, NPM is not the only package manager that you can find. There are others. Even GitHub has a package manager. You can host packages in GitHub, but NPM is the most known, I would say. Everyone uses NPM, and I think it's good to focus on that today. So we have a package. We have some code. We want to reuse that code, and we need a way of consuming this package that we bundle from different projects, right? And in that case, NPM is a platform that is allowing us to do this. And I think that we can start with a very basic example. If you follow previous streams, you might probably seen that we are using a template here in Finsweet that contains the base. It's a template that we always use for starting any new projects, and it contains a bunch of packages already. So we, in a previous stream, we cloned the template. We created a new repository just for demonstration here in the streams, and it's a case of the starter demo. So let's open it up. Let's check what's going on here in the starter demo, right? Every project that's using packages in any way, it will always have what's called these package.json, which is a manifest file. It's a JSON file that contains all the information about your own project, because this project could potentially become also a package. Whatever you want to have together as a group of functionalities, that could be a package. And in this case, we have this file that defines everything from our project, and also it defines all the packages that this project is consuming, right? So if we scroll down, let me just put this like that. If we scroll down here, you will see that this has a bunch of dependencies. The dependencies is what we call when a package depends on other packages, right? So imagine that you have your own project, and in that case, you decide to use, let's say you decide to use React. Everyone knows React, right? Everyone knows that React is a JavaScript framework. The way that you use React, for example, is just by installing the React package in your project, and then you can start using it, and you can start bundling the React code inside your project. But maybe React also uses other packages, right? Because maybe React also uses a package for parsing HTML strings. Maybe it uses a package for I don't know, for honestly I don't even know, but it can be using a lot of different packages, and those packages could also have more packages and more packages. There's this dependency tree that we call. So in this case, our project, which can be considered as its own contained package, has a bunch of dependencies. And these dependencies provide some kind of functionality for our project, right? And you will see that one of the dependencies that it includes, we'll talk about dependencies and depth dependencies in a second, but one of the dependencies that you will see that it includes our template, it's one that it's called Finsweet TS utils, which is just a package that contains a bunch of utilities that we usually need for the projects that we're building for Webflow, right? And let's see how would you consume that package in your project. We have our own index file, right? And actually, we can go to this function that it's called greet user, because it's already using this package. If we check here, this is importing a functionality from the TS-util package, which is the get published date. So if you can guess what this is doing, this is getting the latest published date from a Webflow site. So every time that for any reason I have any project and I need to display, to know, programmatically know what was the last published date of a Webflow site, I could just rely on this method that provides me this functionality. But we can inspect it more. We can just check what's inside this package, and we can see a bunch of stuff. Like, for example, we have a bunch of type definitions. We have a bunch of helper methods, like, for example, get collection elements, or get distance from top, or get site ID. We could also say, for example, not only I want to know the published date of site, I also want to know the ID of the site. So I could just come here and I could say site ID, get site ID, and this is doing the work for me. I have a contained package with a bunch of functionalities, and I can reuse them, so I don't have to keep writing and writing again everything from scratch, right? That's the definition of an NPM package.
Can I come in and ask a question? So
yeah,
you're showing this really cool functionality of being able to get information from the Webflow site, and this is from a package. Now, to make it clear to everybody listening, you've created these packages. This is not something that came from Webflow. You wrote the code to create these methods. And
Hmm.
now these methods are accessible from another place because they use that package. So the package kind of communicates with each other. One package communicates with another one. Is that technically accurate?
Well, one package can import another package. That would be the
Import.
technical
That's the
right.
better
Yeah.
term. Great.
So that you have that
Okay.
package that it's hosted in npm, you can install
Yep.
that package in your project, and then you can import any pieces that package contains, and it's exporting to you.
Nice. Nice.
Yep.
Okay,
um
so that's really cool that you've created all of these methods, and I think at a later date we're going to have to do a stream explaining how
we
these
could
work. Yeah, this is
we
really
could
valuable. I think a lot of people are looking for something like this, but maybe they don't know exactly how to use it. But keep going. This is a great demo. Let's get back to NPM.
Yep. Well, but we were on the right track because, as you said, I had to write this at some point, right? This did not appear magically on npm. Somebody has to publish an npm package in order to be accessible for anyone who wants to use it. So in this case, what I did is we had a bunch of projects that were constantly doing the same things again and again. So I decided, okay, how about we take these small bits, we just create a new package that it's going to be TS utils for any utility that we need when writing TypeScript code for Webflow. Let's just put that in a package, and then we can just reuse it across everywhere. And in that case, this package, if you go to npm.js.com, you can find them, right? If you type add Finsweet slash TS utils, you will find this package. Because this package is it's published and it has a very small documentation. Perhaps if we need to do a stream, we should improve this documentation because right now it's just meant for internal use. But you can see that this comes from a repository, and we publish this so everyone can consume it. Right. The goal of this stream is that everyone knows how to publish their own npm package, and not only that, that they can also import that code directly into Webflow when they want to, host some JavaScript bit that powers some kind of functionality on a page. So we have this package. We already explained how to consume this package, right? What we need to do now, perhaps we could, if there are no questions, is show people how do you create a package. Let's start by that, right? Um,
Let's jump into some questions. We do have some really good questions here. So before we
yeah.
get next, we're doing create a package, but let's see. First, we're going to answer Caleb's question. Is any external script a package, or is a package just a specific format?
When you mean external script, you mean something that you're inputting on an HTML page, like a
Exactly.
script with a
That's
sort?
script tag.
No,
Yep.
no, that has no direct relation. So when you're importing a script, that script could come from anywhere. Could be your own server where you're hosting the files. Could be a random CDN. Could be um, any place that can be publicly accessed from anywhere and can be, can host a file. So in this case, when you're importing a script, you're pointing directly to that specific file, and then the browser, when you load the page, is just, taking care of downloading the script and running it for you. In this case, because I think that this can be a little bit confusing for people, that's why I wanted to make this distinction between what's an npm package and how are we using it in different ways, right? um so an npm package, as you saw here, an npm package contains a bunch of code, right? It's just a package with a bunch of files, functionalities that I decided to put in there and publish it somewhere. This means that this package, it's just a group of JavaScript files. Well, could be JavaScript files, could be any other format, because this is not specific to JavaScript. Um, has a bunch of files, and these files, what I'm doing is from this project, I'm downloading those files and I'm bundling them inside my code. So when I'm installing an npm package, what I'm doing essentially, it's just taking the files from that package and downloading them to my computer. So then when writing my code, I can access those files. Imagine that, for example, I decided, let's put a graphical example. Imagine that here in my code, I decide to just create another file. I decide that the file should be something like, say, hello.ts, for example, right? And this file can have a bunch of code. And I could say, for example, that I want to export a function that say hello, and this is just going to return a function. It's just going to return hello, right? And I could, from any other file, because this is exporting this function, this is using ESM, it's exporting a function. I could just come here, and instead of saying here hello, writing it myself, I could just replace it for what I just said, that it's a hello, like that. Now this function is coming from another file, right? Now we have two files. One file that has this greet user function, and another file that has this say hello function. And NPM package is the exact same thing, but instead of me having created this file myself, putting it here, as I just did, I just created a new file that's called say hello, that exports some code. In this case, I have installed a package, and which is located in this folder that it's called node modules, and we can search for it. So we can search for Finsweet TS utils, and this contains all the code that it's exporting. And in this case, I think that it's from Webflow get cited, I think, get published it. So it's the exact same thing. There is a file that instead of me writing that file, I just downloaded it. Why do I have to write again everything from scratch when I could just download it from somewhere that already contains the file? So now going back to the source, the reason why we're using NPM, it's essentially because when you publish this package, you're sending these files to the NPM platform. So this means that now these files are hosted somewhere, right? Because they need to be accessible. And in our case, what we're going to do is we're going to pick those files and point them through a CDN. We'll see that later. But through a CDN, we'll just point them to those files so we can import them in a script. So you can imagine that the file is here, and just Webflow side, it's just going to point directly to the file, well, through the CDN, but it's going to point to the file, right? So that's the main reason. We can consume those files in many ways. I don't know if I solved the question. Did I?
I think you did. And I'll ask one clarifying question.
Okay.
So, would you say that the script is the end result and the packages are all bundled together into that end result script?
Yes, that's
Cool.
correct.
Okay, so the
And I think
packages,
that,
yeah.
well, I just wanted, because then you make me realize that we need to point out the way that you are exporting a package. So you have a package with a bunch of files, right? But you need to prepare those files for what the end consumer is, because it's not the same that a browser is going to load the JavaScript file to run something, or maybe you want that those files to be reused as npm as packages in other projects. Because I can just put you a very simple example. Imagine that we have this index file here. I bundle everything together. This index file, if you remember, this is just saying hello to Joe. So it's waiting for Webflow to be ready. It's calling a function, and it's changing the background color to red. So it's doing everything. If I run this file, it's going to do everything, right? It's going to just run all this code. But in my case, I don't want to do that. In my case, I just want to pick, for example, the say hello bit, right? So a package could have a different outputs, different files that are being included. Maybe it's a file, which is the one that I want to import on a page, and I want to run all my code. But maybe it's a file that is just exporting a function so I can reuse it as many times as they want. So we'll see that in a second. We'll see that when we deploy this npm package. But yeah, just be aware that there are many ways that you could bundle the code together. There's not just one single purpose for that. And I sorry because I cut you before, and I think that you were about to ask a question, Joe.
I was, and I'm glad you cut me off because now I think this will be a better question.
Okay.
A comment from Gabe. The way I'm understanding it is that packages are the words that make the sentence, which is the script. And in your sentence, you can choose any of the words that you want to go and create that sentence. So maybe there's different sentences for different web pages,
Mm,
and it's like a sentence generator, right? You go online and you can just generate a sentence. It has a bank of
mm.
words and then it generates that sentence. So the packages are the words that make up the sentence, and the sentence is the final output. Is this
I think
true?
that's
This
a
is
great
now
description.
we're like stepping way
Yeah,
back from what it actually is, but
yeah,
when Gabe said this, I said that's a great way to think about it.
it is. So yeah, so the package could contain all the words, and you could maybe just pick a bunch of words yourself. But maybe the package also contains a full sentence, and you can pick also that full sentence. So what you put in the package is just up to you. That's it. And whoever is going to consume that package, it will have available whatever you put inside that package. That's it. We can keep this for now. I see that
Yeah.
somebody, for example, is asking, could something like GSAP be a package? It's actually a package. GSAP is a package. So when we go to GSAP, um, I think that we can just find it here. GSAP. GSAP is a package, and whenever you're importing it, you have two ways of importing GSAP. You could install GSAP in your project, so I could just directly use GSAP in my own code. And then when I bundle everything together, I would bundle my code with GSAP inside it. Or GSAP also, it's published in a way that can be just run directly in a script. So GSAP also does the provides the entire sentence, just following the same description that we gave before. GSAP also provides the full package ready to be run on a browser, and I think that we can just see it. GSAP import. Where can I start here? Come on, installation guide. I think we can just start with saying GSAP CDN. That's probably gonna be faster. Yeah, so a CDN, just pulling a JavaScript file from GSAP, because GSAP also provides the browser ready bundle. So yeah, packages can be consumed in many different ways.
That's really nice. And I hope that this word and sentence explanation helps some people understand it a little better. And remember, it can be a sentence, it could be pages, it could be a novel, right? We talked earlier that this could be something that shows the date, or it could be something that runs an entire application, an entire process, like Webflow's logic. So, yeah, there's words, and those words can create sentences, pages, chapters, anything you think of. So, cool. All right. Let's see. Any more questions? Let's continue. Let's continue
I see
here.
another question that it's super quick to answer. Is, can you import custom CSS style via the npm method? Yes, you
Mm.
can, because inside a package you can put whatever you want, and you could potentially put a CSS file. There are many examples for it. For example, imagine that we want to use Flatpicker. Flatpicker is just another package that it's used for creating custom date pickers, right? But if we see, it also provides the same thing. It can be installed as an npm package, so you can consume it yourself, or it can be imported from a CDN just by pointing directly to the files of the package. And in this case, it has some CSS. So you pick that CSS, you pick it directly from the npm servers. You through a CDN always, but you're just pointing to those files. And same for the JavaScript file. So now you have everything just ready to be served on a browser, right? Let's publish this. How about we try to and publish this for us?
Let's do it.
Okay, now this turns into a little bit of a guide. So I'll try to walk you through the best I can. Just ask me any questions because maybe I'm missing something or I'm not explaining something, and this sounds confusing to you. But obviously, let's define what we want to do. We want to publish an npm package, so then we can consume that npm package from whatever we want. Okay, so obvious first step, we need to have an npm account because we need to publish that. In my case, I already created an npm account, so I created a fake client account, imagining that this is just for a client of us, and we wanted to host some JavaScript files for it. We have this account. You can see that I have a bunch of packages already because I've been testing stuff. So what I want to do is I want to pick this code that we have here. I want to bundle it together so it's ready to be run on the browser. I can put that, I want to put that inside a package so I can send that package to NPM, right? So we just pick everything, we send it to the cloud. So in this case, I will explain you how could you do it manually. But after that, I want to show you the cool way of doing it, which is already included in our developer starter, because we have pre-configured, set up everything so it's easy to you to deploy an npm package. So in this case, what I want to do, if I did it manually, I would have to first bundle my code so I prepare it for whatever reason I want. In my case, I want to prepare it for the browser to run the code. So I would say, for example, pnpm build, I'm building everything together. And now I have this bundled file that contains all my code. And this file is the one that I want to load in the browser, in the Webflow site. And now I need to publish that to npm. So what I would do is, first I need to log into npm, right? Because in that case, I think that it's npm login. 1 second. Let's see the CLI, and I think that you won't have to do this. I'm just explaining how you would do it manually. But I think it's login or init. No, not init. Access. Let's switch for login. CLI npm login. You can see that Googling shit, it's just my day to day. Probably when you try to publish something, it will probably ask you for the credentials. Because right now I just forgot how would you logging in the CLI. Please Google it yourself. But essentially you would logging in your CLI, so your browser, so your computer has your credentials, so your npm credentials in stored, and then you would type npm publish, which would just do the work for you. Would take the files that you have and would send them as a package to npm. But before doing that, we have here inside the package.json, if you remember, that's the file that defines all my settings for my package. We would have to first define a name, right? This name, obviously, it's what I want to show here in npm. So I would say, for example, at fake client, 1 second, let's call add fake client, and I'll tell you why I'm doing this in a second. So let's say fake client starter demo. This means that when I publish my npm package, the npm package is going to be called like that. And maybe you're asking me, why are you appending this here in the NPM package? This is just a convention. So NPM recognizes that this package belongs to an organization. So for example, in Finsweet, we have a Finsweet organization that contains all the NPM packages that we have in the organization. Maybe you would create an organization for a client or for yourself. You can imagine the same, for example, as a Webflow workspace, or Webflow team. You have your own team that has a name, and then you can have projects inside it. So it's the same with NPM packages. In this case, what we did, and I skipped that, so I'll explain you. What I did was in my profile, I think, yep, I created an organization that's called Fake Client. So I have this organization, and I want my NPM package to belong to this organization. And the way that NPM does this is just by appending this add organization / your NPM name. If you wanted to publish without an organization, you could just put it like that, and it would be fine. The only thing that you need to consider is that the name must be unique. So if I try to, for example, create a package that it's called React, I will not be able to publish this because React already exists. React, there's a package that it's called React, right? But in my case, if I did, for example, fake client / React for any reason, I can do that because this is now in my organization. In my case, in our case, let's just say fake client started demo. We have a name. And the second thing that we need to define is what files do we include in this package. So you will see a config option that it's called files, where you can put either folders or specific files to be included. So imagine that we have, different functionalities. We could have different outputs. Maybe there's an output, as we said, that it's an entire sentence, that it's the JavaScript file that it's ready to be run on the browser. But maybe we also have the small bits, the words, with just small functionalities that we want to be able to import from other packages. So in this case, we have already defined the dist folder, which is fine because the dist folder contains my output, contains my bundle code that I want, this code that I want to run whenever I load this on a browser. So we're good to go. This is the only thing that we needed. And if we go back to what I said before, if we wanted to publish, we would just need to just run npm publish. And it would just take these files, which is in my case, it's just this folder, would bundle everything together as a package and just send it up to the cloud so it can be consumed. That's the manual one. That's the manual way of doing it. And I just realized that I forgot one very important thing, and it's defining the version. Because one of the things that it's very important and it's very powerful in npm is that you can have different versions of your package. If you don't know what I'm talking about, on the last stream we talked about semantic versioning. What's semantic versioning? So if you don't understand what I mean, go ahead and check the latest the JavaScript deployment stream. So not the Webflow.js, the previous one, because we talked about semantic versioning. And in my case, I need to put a specific version. Let's imagine that 1.0.0 was already published. I could just go ahead and say, okay, the new version, it's just 1.1.0. And I would be shipping this as that version. Because somebody who's consuming this package could decide, okay, I don't want to use the newest version. I want to use an older version. They can use it. They just point to that specific version. There could be many reasons for that. There could be reasons for compatibility. Could be reasons for breaking changes, which is kind of the same. But essentially, it's so you can just manage everything, making sure that your code is compatible with where you're consuming, right? So we set a version, we published it. A lot of manual work. I think that we should now see what's the actual cool way of doing it, the way that we do it in Finsweet. Um, for that, let's go to the documentation. Inside the developer starter, everyone who clones this template has a full documentation page with everything explained. And in this case, what we wanted to see it's the CI/CD section. CI/CD stands for continuous integration, continuous deployment. Right now, what we need to focus is on deployment. We want to deploy these files so we can we can deploy them to npm. Um, can you excuse me 1 second because I really want to turn on my fan. I'm just dying. It's very hot here.
Yes. And while you step up, let's just take a quick question break. We have from Penny. So, a package is a way to make various code snippets available wherever you need to use it. I'll try to answer this as Alex is turning on the fan. So,
Done.
I would say it's not a way to make code snippets available. It's a way to take code and bundle it with other code. Is that correct, Alex?
I was actually not listening, so if you could repeat that.
Okay.
Sorry.
A package is a way to make various code snippets available wherever you need to use it. And I said that this is a way not to make code snippets available, but to bundle them together. It's a way to
Well,
combine things and bundle.
Well, no, not exactly. So Penny was right. So
Okay.
bundling,
Nice.
because I think that I made a mistake by saying bundling too many times. When we say bundling in with code, it means that imagine that we have a bunch of files and we want to output a single file that contains all my code, right? Like I did, for example, here in this index file, it's importing some code from another file that's the grid file, and the grid file is also importing some code from another file, which is the say hello. And it could be importing something, for example, from a package, which is the Finsweet TI-utils. So there are many different files. And when bundling everything together, we can output everything just as a single file, like I did here. And this is what I want to ship to the browser, so it can run it. That that's not specific to the packages. That's a compiler. So I compile and I bundle everything together. And in that case, it's just a tool that does it for me. And it's not related to NPM packages. What I could ship in NPM, it's a bunch of files that are, let's not call it bundled, let's just call it grouped, that are grouped inside a package. So I can access whatever I put inside that package. Inside the package, I could just have maybe one file or I could have 500. It doesn't matter. I have this group of files that I put inside the package, and now this package can be imported from different places. So I think that makes the that solves the question.
Yes, I think it does. And can you follow up with Eric's comment on the screen here? You explain the bundling, and now why is that with NPM more beneficial than just pasting that code directly in Webflow?
Well, first because of the size. So in Webflow, you have just a limit of I think that's 20,000 characters in the page settings, but also because of reusability. So imagine for example attributes, CMS filter. Imagine that there was no limit of characters in Webflow, so we could just take the code and give it to you. You would have to go ahead and take the code, paste it in every single project. And if there was any change in the code, you would have to pick again the code, replace the code. It would be huge manual work for that. And also the HTML file would contain a lot of JavaScript inline code. So that's not ideal. What we want to do is we bundle everything, we put it in a file, and then that file can be imported from everywhere. Anybody can consume that file. So yeah, thank you, Eric, for asking that.
Nice. That's a
Yep.
great answer to both Penny and Eric's question. So let's continue.
Okay, so let's finally go to how we deploy NPM packages in Finsweet. In our case, we have a couple tools that we use to make the experience seamless, to make it super easy and very organized. We have a tool that it's called ChangeSets, and what this tool does is every single time that I have some changes in my code, and I decide, okay, now I'm happy with these changes. I want to now ship this code to NPM. So basically, I want to bundle everything. I want to publish the new version of the code to NPM. So whoever is consuming that package can have the latest version if they want to. So ChangeSets will do this for me, but not also that. It will also keep a change log for me. So it will write a file that contains all the changes that I've been doing. And you'll see it in a second because this is very powerful, especially if you're working in a team. And the second tool that we have, we already showed it before, it's JS Deliver. So JS Deliver, it's the CDN that it's going to point to the npm package so you can consume any file, and that file is going to be cached. It's going to be prepared to be consumed from a browser in production. So change sets, let's use that. We need to set it up first. To set it up, I recommend everyone to read this. Okay, but basically what this is saying is that if you don't specify an npm token, we'll get to that in a second, change sets will still work, but the only thing that we'll do is it will keep a change log. That's it. It will just keep a change log with whatever changes I did to my code. But not only I want to do that, I also want that every single time that there's a change, automatically deploy that to npm. So the first thing that we need is we'll go to our npm account. We'll go to access tokens because we will need an access token for that. And we'll create a new one. We'll create a new one by saying generate new token. Let's put a name. Let's say starter demo. So we know that this is for this demo. And we'll specify that this is for automation. So because there's going to be an automation that will run, and I'll explain that in a second. But we want this version. We'll generate the token, and now everyone can see it, but it's fine. I'll remove it later. And we want to come here in the repository settings, go in the secrets. I think it was, yeah, correct. We want to go to action secrets, repository secrets. And inside here, I'll just remove it because I already had it previously, but I'll do it again. We want to create a new repository secret. And this, we need to call it npm token, uppercase. This is important. It must match this. So we call it npm token like this. We paste the token here, and we just add the secret. So now this repository contains this secret. Nobody now can check it out. I mean, you all of you saw it right now, but ideally you would not do this publicly. You would just do it in private, and then this can no longer be accessed. And now this means that every single time that change sets, let's go back down here. Every single time that change sets detects that there's a change, it will take the new code and will automatically ship it to npm. So let's do it. Let's show how this is working. Let's imagine, for example, actually I already did it because I created some new code. If you recall, the code was I created the say hello file, and I decided to update my code with this say hello function, right? So in this case, what I will do is I will create a new change set. And to do that, we need to type pnpm change set and we'll just follow the instructions here. Let's wait 1 second. I don't know why it's taking long. Okay. So in this case, changing now, it's prompting me to answer a bunch of questions. The first question that it's asking me is, what kind of change is this? If you remember about semantic versioning, we had 3 different type of changes. Could be a patch, which is just a bug fix, something that the code is the same, but I fixed something. Could be a minor, which is, whoops, this bug. Could be a minor, which means that I added something, but the code that was previously there, it's not breaking. Nothing else is changing. It's just me adding some functionalities. And the third version, it's a major version, which is that my update actually it's gonna break whatever you're using, because there might be something that has changed. It could be settings, it could be the way that you import the package, it could be the way that you run the package, it could be many things. But in my case, it's just a minor because we added a new functionality, which is just saying hello from a call function. So we'll say that this is a minor. And now it's prompting me to say, please write a summary of these changes. So we'll say, replaced a hard-coded hello by a reusable function. That could be a good example of explaining what changed, right? It's just asking me, is all of this correct? Let's say yes. And now we will see that we have a really weird file here that it's called a random name, pretty students jump, that contains my chain set. You'll see why in a second, because the next step, what we want to do is just commit this. We have these code updates, we want to commit. So we'll say, we can just say the same thing. I'll just say, replace the hardcoded hello by a reusable function. This is my commit. Let's just commit this. And now you will see that there's going to be an action, GitHub Actions. Well, there's a lot of things to explain. GitHub Actions is just automatic actions that you can set up. So GitHub run on a specific triggers, specific events. In our case, we have an action that it's parsing the change set and detecting what changes happened. If we go to actions, we should see it. There's an action that's running here. And it's just saying, it's checking for everything. And actually already finished. And this is just doing a new pull request. This sounds super tedious, but stay with me. We're almost done. And we see that there's a bot, there's a robot that detected this change set. And let's see what happened. We see this pull request, and if we go to the files that have changed, we can see that now automatically this bot created a changelog file for us that contains this change. If you remember, we were on version 1.0.0. We decided that this change was a minor version. So automatically, the bot for me, it's changing the package version, and it's updating the changelog with my latest changes. So we'll say that we're happy with this. We want to deploy it. We just need to merge this pull request. That's it. And that's it. That's done. Now, I can delete this for now. We don't need it. Now, in the background, ChangeSets has detected this, has detected that we changed the package version. And what it's doing for us, it's just deploying that to NPM. That's it. I don't need to logging into NPM because the repository already contains the access token. Everyone who's using this everyone who's working on this repository can create a new version of the package without any setup. They just need to create a change set, and that's it. So if we go to NPM, let's try to find, actually, let's wait until it has finished deploying. Okay, it failed. Let's see, 1 second. Something failed. Something already exists. This obviously was not planned. So we'll have to do some debugging here. Um, Tag name validation failed. Something failed, and we got a 404 from here. So this means that hold on. Let's try it again, just for the sake of displaying this. And if not, I'll show it with another repository, and then I'll try to fix this so anybody who's using the template doesn't run into this. Let's just do a random commit. For example, let's say, let me pull this 1 second. Let's try to trigger this again by saying, I'll just make this random change just for a second. Try it again. I hate how always everything fails in a stream. Come on.
Yeah, of course.
Let's do it again.
That's what it's all about. But let's see this one. Let's see if we get the success here.
If not, I'll just switch to another repository to show you how this is working. Did it publish? It's not being published. Oh, so it was published actually. Come on. Okay, so never mind. It actually worked. I saw an error and I freaked out. And the weird thing is that it's still showing the old version. Let's try it again. Okay, it did not publish. It did not go through. I published this a few days ago, the 1.0 version, just for testing. But this did not go through. But at the same time, this is saying that 1.1.0 it's already published on NPM. So my wild guess is going to be that NPM it's actually the thing that's failing. Because the API it's telling us that 1.1.0 it's published, but the site it's saying otherwise.
A good comment from Magica Nexus. Did you push on fake client or Finsweet? Because you're searching here at Finsweet, but I think we were on fake client.
Yes, right. Thank you very much.
There we go. Clients always getting in our way, even when they're fake.
Okay, that's it. Right. Last published 3 minutes ago. Everything worked. That's fine. Yay. Okay. I think that we should do it again, just for the sake of showing an actual good run. And then after that, let's just solve any questions. Oh, wait a second. We need to use this. Let's go to Webflow. I'll just put this aside just 1 second. I'll log in into Webflow. And perhaps you could answer or search for any questions in the meantime, Joe.
We have some questions, but they're not exactly related to the content, so we're going to answer them at the end. I know I would love to see the push to NPM, the success, and then getting that code on a Webflow site.
Okay, so here we are. This is the Webflow project that we created for demonstration purposes. On the last stream, let me zoom in. On the last stream, we pulled the file. Well, we did this for demo because somebody asked about conditionally loading this. But what we did on the last stream, we hosted this on Vercel, right? But in this case, we want to point to the NPM package. So again, our good old friend JS Deliver helps us. The first time that we used it was for GitHub. If you remember, when we had a GitHub repository, we could point to that specific repository files. But now we want to point to NPM. So we'll just say the same thing that we did before. Here, and we'll just replace this for CDN JS Deliver Net NPM, and this is going to be fake client /starter demo. The version, let's go to specific version for now. And if we remember, this was the dist folder and index.js. Just reminding, because we have everything in a dist folder, index.js. And this is what we decided to include in the package. We decided to include the dist folder and the index.js. So we're loading this. And before publishing, let's just try it ourselves. Let's just go to this. Takes a second, and now this already contains my code. So this is a file that it's living on inside an npm package, and we are just pointing to that file through a CDN. So now we can just publish this, and again, it's probably going to work because the file is loading fine. But let's just check it. And it changes the background color. It says hello to Joe. When the site was published, everything was fine. That's good. Now, let's do it again for the sake of just demonstrating. Let's imagine that I decide that I don't want to greet Joe again. I no longer want to say hi to Joe. I want to say hi to Eric because he asked the question before. So in this case, I'll say, let's put the surname. We say hi to Eric. So we have this change. We want to deploy this. Let's do it again. The npm changeset, sorry. And this is going to be a patch minor. This small change, let's just say that this was a bug. Joe was not supposed to be there. Eric was supposed to be the one. So in this case, we say fix the name to Eric. We say yes. We have this change. We just commit this change. So we have the files. We have the change set. We commit that to GitHub. Let's just push it. By the way, if you don't know what's this, please check out the first stream that we did because I explained how we manage in a visual way Git using GitHub Desktop. There are many other ways that you could do it, but in this case, for it's very visual. It's very simple to use, so I'm doing that. Now, if we go to the repository, we will see that there's an action that it's running. And this action is just creating my change log and it's updating the package for me. So it's doing the work for me. Now we will see that we have a new pull request, and this new pull request contains the changes. So we can see now that this is logging the new change. We decided to change the name to Eric. It bumped the version of the package, so it's fine. We're happy with this. We just merge this. Let's confirm. And now this is it, because now all the work is being done for me. Everything is being deployed, and when it finishes, we should see here an action. It's weird anyways that we're seeing an error. There should be no error there. Even though it's polishing, there shouldn't be any errors. Oh, by the way, remember when we were in doing the GitHub version that we had, it's actually failing. There's some error there. I'll fix that. But the deployment is successful. But this is not only deploying. Before deploying the files, this is doing my work for me. This is building the project. So this is making sure that the index file, this index file has been compiled to the latest version. So this is also some work that it's doing for me. And if we go to the repository, we should see that now we have this latest version, 1.1.1, that was published a few seconds ago. So we could come here. In our case, we are loading a specific version. So we need to change it like this. But instead of doing that, maybe what we want to do is load the latest version. So in my case, I'll say that I want to load the latest version from the version number 1. right? And that should also work. Maybe we will have some issues with caching, but that should also work. So let's try it again. And it's saying hi to Eric. So we have this latest update up in place. Um, so what are the benefits of this? Maybe we could state that, right? The first
That's great.
benefit.
Can we answer one question from Charles? It's a quick one.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's say Charles republishes the same version without updating the version number.
You
Will all the
can't.
files rewrite to npm? You cannot do that. So you'll get
No,
an
you will
error.
get an error.
Right? Yeah.
A
Okay.
version, it's unique. You cannot change a version. You can potentially remove it, but npm will complain about that. There's a way of doing it, but npm will not be happy, and you need to use the CLI for that. There's no automatic way of doing it. But yeah, if you try to
Right.
publish the same version, you will just get an error.
Nice. Great. Okay. Benefits. Let's do it.
Okay, so the first benefit, obviously, imagine that for some reason this was a breaking change, and we can put a better example. Imagine, for example, let's go to Finsweet slash attributes slash CMS filter, because this one a lot of people knows about it. So imagine that CMS filter, we decide to create a new version that it's better. You need to use different attributes because it's simpler to set up. There are a bunch of things that have changed here in CMS filter, right? What you don't want to do is that everyone who's consuming this URL, suddenly they get the new version. Let's call it the 2-point version, because then everyone's sites is going to break. So everything is just fucked up because the new way of setting the attributes, it's different, right? This is ensuring that we only load a specific version of a package. It could be the version 1, could be the version 1.5.3, whatever. You can always point to a specific version. And that applies both to loading a file from a URL and also to installing a package as a dependency inside my code. Imagine, for example, that the Finsweet slash TS utils, for any reason, decides that this get published date function, it's no longer usable, we decide to just remove it from the package. And we decide to do that in a new version. So we decide that the new version, it's no longer going to contain the published date, this method. My code, it's still using this specific version. So this means that my code will not break. I could potentially update to another version, and in that case, the code would be the newest version that was published. But there's always this granularity. You can always choose the specific version of the code, and this is very powerful, especially when you're working with teams, when you're working with delivering a specific file to multiple places, etc. So that's why we use it in Finsweet. And also, the second benefit that has, as opposite to the GitHub version, it's that NPM packages can be powered by private repositories. The GitHub version, it needs to be public if you want to load a file from a GitHub repository. The NPM packages, it can be private. So yeah, I think that most of it was covered. The versioning control. There's a lot of control about what you're serving. You can decide exactly what you're releasing. Imagine that you want to commit a bunch of code. So imagine that I do a bunch of changes. So I want to say like this. This is a change, but it's not ready. I'm still not happy with it. Right? So I want to save this code to Git. I want to commit this code, but I still don't want this code to be deployed. It's fine. I can commit this. Let's just say it like that, super quick. And this will not trigger any new deployment because I have not created a change set for it. So you can always be updating your code safely, and only when you create a change set by using the pm change set command that I showed you before. That's the only time that my code is going to be published. It's going to be released to npm. So yeah, you have a lot of control with this. And I see a lot of people writing stuff. Are there any
Yeah, we have
questions?
some questions. Okay. First, let's bring up from Magica Nexus. While pushing, if you're in version 2.0 of your code, can you still update the version 1.x.x for users that use this version?
You can. You can. Yes. Well, actually, I think yes. The with the template, you will not be able to do it because honestly, I didn't think about that when setting it up. But yes, in npm you can always follow the versioning after a major version. So imagine, for example, that you released a new version, but still you want to support, give support to an older version. Maybe there's a bug, something that you want to fix. You can always do that. You can keep publishing versions to the 1 point whatever while keeping the 2 point version still up to date with whatever other updates you want to do. So yeah, that's another benefit. So thank you for bringing that up.
Nice. Another question from Magica Nexus. What happens when you have a caching issue?
Yep. We mentioned that in a previous stream.
We did.
In our case, we're using JS Deliver to serve the files. JS Deliver is a CDN, and a CDN does that on purpose. CDN caches the files so they are very fast to be loaded to the users, right? So in our case, what we if imagine that you have an update and you want to have that update right away. There was a bug or something and you really need to push that update and everyone to get it. um, if it was an npm, if it was just consumed as a dependency in my code, that's fine, there is no caching there. I could just run an update command, and by the way, this is a command that it's available in the template. So I could just say pm run update, and I could check for the latest versions of the packages, and I could just install the latest version. So I can see that there are a bunch of packages that have new versions in them. So there's no caching for this. But if you want to purge the cache of the CDN, in that case, JS Deliver offers an API for purging the cache. So if you Google JS Deliver purge cache, you will see this, and they're saying that it's coming soon because it's closed, but you need to write to them. You just write to them and ask for accessing the purging API, and they will give you access. I think that it took just a couple days when I requested access for ourselves. It's very, you just send an email and they give you access.
Great. Okay, we'll do one more question before moving from Joel Whitaker. Joel says, this has been a great series. The Finsweet starter is the perfect boilerplate for front-end development in Webflow. Are you open to users forking the starter? I would love to make a Vue version.
Yes, of course. That would be super great.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead.
great. All right, go for
And
it, Joel, and please share that.
yep, the template is public. So if you go to github.com/finsweet/developer starter, do not go to the starter demo. That's another thing. This developer starter, this template, you can go ahead and fork it and create your own version. So yeah, go ahead.
Nice. That's great. Thank you, Joel. Okay, now, what else do we have to cover for this NPM show?
I think we pretty much covered everything,
Nice.
unless there was something that I did not explain correctly. Um, oh, yeah, there's one more thing that we could do, that it's very powerful and we have not mentioned yet. And this is another tool, another feature that the template contains. And I think that I can explain it in 10 minutes. Do we have 10 minutes? We do, right?
We do. Yeah.
Okay. So if you stick with us, if you remember when I said in this section of the documentation that continuous integration, continuous deployment, and that we were focusing on the continuous deployment. So we are continuously deploying to NPM whenever we need it. There's the other thing, there's the other side, which is the continuous integration. And what does this mean? Continuous integration is just a way of making sure that your code it's always integrated and it's ready. There are no issues. And in our case, we have two different workflows for continuous integration. The first workflow, it's for linting and checking my code. And the second workflow, it's for testing my code. So when let's see that in action. Let's just see it because it will be simpler to show it. And I'll go back to my repository for demonstration, which is the starter demo in here. Um, so as I explained previously, if you follow these streams, you probably seen a couple things. The first one is that we are using TypeScript. And TypeScript, if we defined it, I really liked it how we defined it in the first stream. TypeScript is just a set of rules that you put in your code, type rules, we could say, that you enforce that your code to follow them, or you will get an error. And so, for example, imagine that this name that it's a string, right? But we decide that this variable we want to be a number. We're getting an error now because this is supposed to be a number. This is not supposed to be a string. So I could say here, okay, this should be a number. Now this is a number, but well, now ESLint is complaining because I'm doing unnecessary work. But for example, now that this is a number, the function it's complaining because it's expecting a string. So yeah, it's just a bunch of rules that we can enforce for to our code to have type safety. And the second thing that we explained that we have here in the repository, it's ESLint. ESLint, it's another set of rules, but instead of being focused on types of my code, it's focused on my coding style. So if I say, for example, a variable using var, which is an old syntax, ESLint is going to complain to me, right? So we have these tools here, but obviously, I mean, not only we want to avoid writing the code here so we get errors, because okay, that's fine. I'm getting a rect squiggly line here, but not only I want to get the error here in my coding editor, I also want to get an error if I try to deploy this. So imagine, because I mean, when sending this to NPM, NPM will not complain. NPM will just say, okay, you're sending this to me, that's fine. I'll just take it, right? But we want to have somebody in the middle who's saying, hey, if you have this in your code, if you have this quickly line, this error, I'm not gonna let you deploy. I'm not gonna let you pass through with your wrong code, right? And let's see what happens if we create a new branch. Let's say error demo. And in my case, I'm going to commit this, and ESLint, as you can see, ESLint is complaining about it, but nothing it's taking me back from, it's holding me back from committing this to GitHub. So I'll just say committed wrong code. Okay. And let's wait for a second. And if we create a pull request now, the continuous integration workflow, it's going to run for me. You can see now that there are a bunch of actions that are running. There's the continuous integration for linting. There's the continuous integration for testing, which I'll get to that in a second. And there's Vercel that should not be here, but it's here because I did the demo on the previous stream where I installed Vercel in this repository. So I should remove it. But anyways, something failed. GitHub is now telling me, hey, you're trying to merge some code that it's wrong. You should not be putting your code through your wrong code. And we could see some details. And this is saying, don't use bar. Come on. There is some code here that is using bar, and you should not be using bar. You should be using let or const. So GitHub already, it's bringing this error for me. And this ensures that whoever wrote this code, specifically if it's a team with a lot of people writing code, I'm not going to let anybody merge this code that it's wrong, right? So whoever wants to merge this code now needs to go back to the code base and fix it before we let him commit the code. So this workflow, it's also bundled in the template. You don't need to do anything about it. It's plug and play. Once you clone the template, that's it. You have it in place. The only place where it runs, it's when you create a pull request. So if you commit directly to master, in that case, it's not going to run. It's not going to hold you back from committing wrong code. So just be aware of that. By creating pull requests, you're sure that all the code that goes through it's actually valid. I don't know if there are any questions, but we can explain the second tool that is in place, which is testing. And this would be enough for an entire stream. So I'll just make a super quick summary. But testing, it's a way of automatically testing your code so it works as it expected. And we have a really good example that it's included. I'll just remove this. We have a really good example that it's included in the template. If you go to the tests file in the test folder, you will see that there's the specification for a demo, an example test, and this just uses this page, which is a random to-do application. We can just add to-dos, we can check to-dos, we can remove to-dos. You can see that it's an application, it's doing stuff, right? The testing spec, it's just defining a bunch of expected things of your website, and then it's going to check if those things are actually being solved, are being provided to the user. So the code, it's going to test if we can add new to-dos. So it should allow to add new to-dos. It should clear the text input field when a new item is added. So when we type and we do this, clears the field. It should append new items. It should show main and footer when items are added. So it's just defining a bunch of things that this application should be doing, right? And we can automate that. So if we come here and say PNPM test and like that, it's going to do all those actions for me. And whoops, all of that failed because I need to install this. So 1 second. This is going to be pmpx playwright install. Just 1 second. You don't need to do that, and you will see why, because I'm doing it manually, but there's no reason for doing it manually, because the same thing that happened when I opened the pull request that checked for the code if it was valid, it also runs a test for you here in the pull request. So let's wait 1 second. This was not planned. Sorry about that. But once it installed, what's going to happen is that the tool that's called Playwright will do all of these actions for me. Let's do it again. Playwright will automate everything for me, and you will see it now in a second. And now it's testing in Firefox, in Chrome, and in Safari. It's testing it for me. It's just coming here and it's doing it. And it's doing it in my other screen. You should see it, but okay. I'm trying to drag and drop the things here so you can see it. But what's doing is it's opening the browser and it's doing the actions for me. It's adding whatever action, it's doing whatever action I told the spec to do, and it's checking if the output was the correct one. And everything should pass. Okay, everything passed. So this also happens when we open a pull request. Only if you have defined any tests. Maybe you don't want to define any tests. So in this case, what you can do, you can disable this. You can go to GitHub Workflows and you can just pick the tests action and you can just comment it out. And now the tests will not run. But if you wanted to run the tests as it did previously here in this pull request, if we check the details, it tested my code and it made sure that everything that I defined passes. So that's another tool that we have included. And sorry to be, I mean, because testing it's complete new world. It just goes for an entire stream. So maybe we could plan that in a future. How to add tests to your code.
Nice.
It's pretty advanced. Yeah,
Yes.
it's pretty advanced, that one.
Great. So this was a really nice overview of NPM and how to get code live on a Webflow site while being in this really nice developer environment. Everybody should know that this is used on our client projects. This is an actual flow that our entire development team uses. And Alex has created this template. We've iterated on this template, and now it's part of the process. It's great. Now, Alex, are there any final thoughts about NPM that you want to share with the viewers here?
Well, just try to clone the template and try to install an npm package yourself. This is something that I have not explained, and now I'm realizing that we have more things to explain. It always happens.
Yeah.
But try to understand the code that is included in the template. Try to understand how these functions are coming from a package, and try to play around with using packages in your projects. And the second thing is try yourself to deploy something. Try to create an npm account. Try to bundle some code. Try to use ChangeSets to send that code to npm, and then try to consume that code from Webflow. That's an entire new goal for a lot of people here. So if you're motivated for it, just go ahead and try it.
And please don't be discouraged if it doesn't work the first time or the second time or the 10th time. This is not easy, but once you start to get better at it and once you start to learn, it then does become easy. So you have to be patient with this. You may have to rewatch this stream 3 or 4 times to finally get it working and understand how this all works. And that's okay. This is a long journey. This is a long process. So yeah, that's what I have to say. I think
Penny is
we can.
asking a question here. Did you learn this deployment process as part of the Udemy course or somewhere else? No, Penny. The Udemy course that always encourage people to take just teaches you about JavaScript. I mean, that's it. You learn about JavaScript. Anything else, you learn it by just Googling stuff. I think that our job as developers is to be able to learn stuff by ourselves. So anything related to whatever tool, whatever process, whatever pattern, whatever language you need for your day-to-day job as a developer. This is something that you need to learn how to learn it by yourself. So in that case, no, it's not included in any specific course. I don't know how I learned it. I just googled shit until I figured it out. Yeah.
And a great question from Magica Nexus. Do you have references to go deeper on this subject?
Google. Uh, yeah, I don't have any specific reference. If I find something, we'll put it in the description. Let's say that. But at this moment, I cannot recall any specific article or guide. Just go ahead and use Google. Just how to deploy an NPM package in Google, and you will find thousands of sites that are explaining stuff to you. Go ahead and try it.
Okay. What's the name of the Udemy course? We can definitely share that.
Can we put a tracking something, a referral link there? So we
I'm actually
is this-
looking. We're setting up referral links right now, and I'm checking, and I don't think we've been officially approved for the Udemy one yet. So we're going to send this
pity.
out, but we don't get any credit for sharing this course. But yes, if you're interested in learning JavaScript, this is Alex's recommended course. This is where he learned the cores of JavaScript to now take this to the next level.
Yeah. Pablo
Cool.
Cortez is asking, will learning Git help? Yes, it would, because specifically this entire process is based on GitHub and Git, obviously. So yes, Git. If you want to be serious about your code and what you're developing, Git is it's a must. Maybe we could do a stream about Git in the future also, because for these streams, I just went through the basics using GitHub Desktop, but Git, it's again an entire different topic that could be just a single stream. So yeah, we could do that.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Alex, for sharing this information with us, helping people start to think about the next level and how to really create this environment to create next level projects in Webflow. We all know that if you really want to do something at that next level in Webflow, you're going to need to work with some custom code. So if you're serious about this industry, you got to be serious about these topics. So thank you, Alex, for sharing this with everybody. Do you have any final words for the audience?
No, just thank you for being here. As always, I know that it's very, very early in the United States and we still have people watching us from there. And for the rest of the world, whatever time it is, I just really appreciate that you're here with us. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. We will. Oh, I should say before we go, Client First V2 is launching today.
Yeah.
In 1 or 2 hours, when you reload the Client First site, finsweet.com/client-first, this will load in V2 in, let's say, 2 hours. And this is a big release. Everything is re-explained. If you are at all interested in Client First, you have to read the new docs. It's going to help you take your idea of HTML and CSS in Webflow to the next level. Now, next Tuesday, we have a huge announcement, and you really have to be there. We are keeping it very secret. We have the YouTube video up, and it's a juicy title on that YouTube video. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so you do not miss this announcement on Tuesday. We have a big, big news for you. And that's it. Everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy and keep staying technical.
Hey, bye.